You can't go a few minutes without hearing another disturbing story about the coronavirus. But separating fact from fiction is difficult amongst all the frenzy. Here is a list of some of the countries most affected by the coronavirus. And we shed some light on how it started, how you actually catch it, what China is doing about it, and how best to prevent its spread. Let's dive in. Countries most impacted by coronavirus. What is the coronavirus? So, coronavirus isn't a completely new phenomenon like you might think. It is a large family of viruses that have already affected most of us. It is zoonotic, which means it can pass between animals and people. Remember SARS? Well, this was a coronavirus family member. And Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome was prevalent in 2002 to 2003. It originated in China, most likely from consumption of animals like bats, palm civets, Chinese ferret badgers, or raccoon dogs. 8,096 people were infected, and 774 fatalities were reported. Then, around 2012, the MERS coronavirus reared its head. The Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, originated in Saudi Arabia. Dromedary camels are considered the main carrier of the MERS virus. 35% of cases of the infection were fatal. So, the current coronavirus is known as the novel coronavirus, nCoV, and is a completely new strain to those previously identified in humans. To date, 91,000 people have been infected, and the number is still rising. It is thought it entered the human race through pangolins, bats or snakes, but no solid conclusion has been reached between scientists. Which countries are hit hardest? These figures are always changing, but based on the time of producing this video, these are the most up-to-date numbers. China. China is the most affected by the current outbreak of coronavirus. The virus is thought to have originated in the Hubei province of China. Within the province of Hubei is Wuhan City, where the highest numbers of confirmed cases have been reported. In February, the province had a 30% increase of new confirmed infections, taking the total to 14,840. However, on February 28th, the province began to report only single-digit new infections, showing that the spread of the virus is getting under control. China currently has over 82,000 people infected with the virus. Since February 24th, the Chinese president Xi Jinping ordered resumption of work. He advised each region to adopt a precise approach in managing and preventing further spread. South Korea. By early March, South Korea had listed 5,200 infections of coronavirus. To date, 28 people had succumbed to the virus, mostly people already weakened by other illnesses. It has been discovered that 60% of the cases of coronavirus in South Korea are linked to people who are part of the Shincheonji religious sect in the southeastern city of Daegu. The Daegu and nearby North Gyeongsang alone racked up 3,081 infections of the 5,200 the country has reported. Italy. To date, Italy has 2,036 confirmed cases of coronavirus infections, and 52 people have already died from the virus. Italy has the third largest number of cases, which has led to many travel suspensions of US flights to Milan. Italy's Civil Protection Authority is clamping down with practical restrictions, like closing the La Scala Opera House. They have also suspended all public events and meetings in public spaces, and attractions like museums until further notice, to reduce large crowds congregating where there could be a potential spread. Italy's leadership also locked down travel in or out of certain areas that were affected with coronavirus infections in the north of the country. This affected an estimated 100,000 who were basically under quarantine. Iran. Iran's cases of infection have exceeded 1,501. Seeing a scary rise in new infections in the last day. Iranian authorities tracking the virus reported an increase of 205 new infections in less than 24 hours. Japan. Before we get into these figures, although not a country, the cruise liner Diamond Princess had 706 passengers infected, with 7 deaths. The liner is now empty, with most passengers during their quarantine time. Back to Japan. Japan is urging employers to implement teleconferencing wherever possible and stagger work hours in an attempt to prevent the spread of the virus. Japan currently has 283 people infected, with 6 deaths in total. France. France is taking urgent measures to ensure the spread of coronavirus is contained. The country has recorded 191 infections of the virus, with 3 deaths. Museums and many public spaces are being closed by the French government, including attractions like the Louvre. All public gatherings of 5,000 or more people in confined spaces are being cancelled. This affects the Paris half marathon participation. Hong Kong. One of the most recent cases of infection in Hong Kong is a 46-year-old woman. She is being treated in hospital and her family members have been quarantined. The total of coronavirus infections has reached 100 people. 60 remain in hospital to date, while 33 have been discharged. 2 patients have died from the infection. The outbreak has been linked to the Fu Kwai Ching Buddhist temple cluster. Thailand. Thailand has reported 43 infections of coronavirus so far. The popular tourist destination is vulnerable to infection, as it welcomes international tourists every day. The most recent case is a 21-year-old Thai salesman who was working with foreign tourists. Taiwan. A sudden increase of coronavirus infections jumped 4 cases in one hospital at the end of Feb. A patient was seen at a hospital in Taiwan and had coronavirus symptoms. She had just returned from a tour of Egypt and Dubai in the Middle East. 4 people working in the hospital who came into contact with her were then infected. All of them were staff members of the hospital, 1 was a cleaner, and 3 were nurses. Taiwan has a total of 41 cases testing positive for coronavirus. USA. To date, there are 103 confirmed positive cases of coronavirus in the US, according to the US Center for Disease Control, or CDC. The total is made up from various sources, not all infected on US soil. 44 of the people were aboard the Diamond Princess cruise ship, and 3 other people were repatriated from China. 22 were US cases spread across various states: Arizona, California, Illinois, Massachusetts, Oregon, Washington, and Wisconsin. 13 of these infections were travel-related, while 9 were further infections on US soil from person-to-person contact. The CDC has ramped up testing as they have identified hotspots where the illness is spreading. These epicenters, like the Seattle suburb of Kirkland, have already experienced 6 related cases of coronavirus, all based around a nursing home. Firefighters who had visited the nursing home had to be quarantined, and a college campus had to be thoroughly cleansed after some of its students had visited the nursing home. To date, there have been 6 confirmed deaths. Africa. The continent of Africa has been lucky to stave off infection of the coronavirus, the longest. However, currently there are 3 official cases now on record. 1 is in Egypt, 1 in Algeria, and 1 in Nigeria. To date, no deaths are connected to coronavirus. The continent boasts a population of 1.3 billion inhabitants, and health experts are curious about the low incidence of infections that have affected 60 countries worldwide and infected over 90,000 people. Due to Africa's close commercial links to China, it seems an obvious step that Africa would experience a high infection rate, but this hasn't been the case. With Africa having many countries with poor medical services and lack of resources, an outbreak like coronavirus would be a tragedy. What is China doing to stop the spread of the virus? China has been forced to respond to the outbreak of coronavirus. They work to find a diagnosis protocol and treatment plan to reduce the loss of life and spread of the disease. They have mostly used containment measures to reduce the outbreak from spreading, ensuring that people with symptoms of the pneumonia-associated coronavirus are not allowed to travel or be in public spaces. The Chinese Civil Aviation Administration has also reduced flights to Wuhan. They have pooled trained medical staff to be able to be in the most affected areas. The same goes for the pooling of medical supplies. China has set up new hospitals on a war footing, and after the January Chinese Lunar New Year holiday, they extended leave days for schools and businesses to keep people at home to reduce exposure. What is being done worldwide to help it stop spreading? Scientists are in a global race to develop a vaccine for coronavirus. However, it will take time before it is distributed to the market. It will most likely only be released in 2021. Wuhan, China is virtually quarantined from the rest of the world, with major restrictions on travel, including several Chinese cities. This is affecting 60 million people in the area. Flights are also limited or cancelled to and from China, and Chinese nationals are being limited in travel. Are face masks effective in preventing you from getting the virus? Face masks, sadly, won't save you entirely from infection. Coronavirus is carried through the air in droplets expelled from the infected person. This can be from coughing, sneezing, and even breathing. The moisture droplets we all expel naturally carry the virus from infected people and enter a healthy person through the eyes, nose, and mouth. Wearing a face mask might help a little bit, but it still allows tiny droplets in where it is not snugly fitting. If you have a tight-fitting respirator, like the N95, then you have an increased chance of less getting in through the sides. The virus also spreads on hands, so if someone infected touched your mask, it could also pose the risk of infecting you. Those who think they are infected, however, should definitely wear masks, because they decrease the chance of infecting others.